Hello everyone and welcome to Supporting Faculty in the Philippines to Develop Skills and Innovate with Online Teaching and Learning, a roundtable discussion held in partnership between Times Higher Education and Coursera for Campus. My name's Ashton Wemborn and I'm the Special Projects Deputy Editor at THE. We're joined today by a number of experts and decision makers from the Philippines higher education sector, so thank you all very much for joining us today. In the past year, online teaching has become an essential aspect of education, and hybrid learning is likely to become a permanent feature of the higher education experience moving forward. For institutions to be successful in an increasingly digital world, they must support faculty as they acquire new skills and adapt to innovative ways of teaching. So I'd like to pass on to Clavia Barve, sales lead at Coursera, who's going to provide us with some insights into the industry's experience of skills development via online platforms.
Hi, thank you, Ashton, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, and good to be part of this roundtable. And it's a privilege for me to meet all of you and also share our perspective from Coursera on what we are seeing in the higher education space. And very pertinent topic, Ashton, around helping the faculty members as well as students to build skills in these times. Because now it's no more about degrees, it's about the skills that the students bring along with these degrees. And that's what I think what we're seeing as we talk to the industry as well as to the campuses and higher education institutes around the world. And that's happening because of largely what we are seeing around the world. As a graduate today, the graduates are facing unprecedented times because they are facing what we are seeing around us as a double disruption. All of us are talking about COVID, but I think the disruption started earlier, just 5 years ago, even before COVID happened, because of the transformation that the companies are going through because of the technology advancements. So today, as a graduate, I face two different challenges. One is obviously the jobs, which are getting more and more difficult to get. But I think more importantly, what will continue to happen is that the core skills will also change. So if you look at point number 2 and point number 4, and these are all from the report from World Economic Forum, and these are very startling statistics. So point number 2 is around the skills which are continuously changing. So, and it's said that in next 4 years, almost 40% of the core skills will change, which means if I am a first year student of engineering in 2021, by the time I graduate, half of the skills will change. And this is really worrying for a student who's just entering a college. And the last point is around how the employers or the industry or the companies are behaving. The way the digital transformation is happening, that has also led to a way the employers are hiring these days. And so if you combine both these factors, the changes in the digital skills required, as well as the way hiring has changed or evolved over a period of time, I think that's what the students are going through these days. So if you look at the top skills which are in demand today, the top 5 or 6 skills that you see are related to AI, digital, and technology. So irrespective of what stream or what program I'm part of, if I'm joining the workforce, there's a need in a student to develop one of these skills to be able to be ready for the job world. But we've seen that the changes in the curriculum don't happen so easily, right? So the changes in the curriculum take years to happen, but the changes in the technology happen every 2 years. And because of that, there's a gap between what these students are learning and what the industry is looking for. If you read many reports globally, it said that anywhere between 40 to 60% of the students who are coming out of the campuses are not employable, or they don't have the skills that the industry is looking for. And this is just a quote from Tim Cook from Apple. But if you read many other reports and talk to other decision makers and the CEOs, you will get a similar feedback that the students are not coming out with the skills which the industry is looking for. And that's why the way the industry is hiring these days has also changed. So as we speak with employers and the companies, they are saying that no more just a degree is enough. 10 years ago, if you were passing out with a college degree, that was enough, but not anymore. So what the employers are looking for is the skills first approach. Do you have the skills which is needed for you to complete a job that is assigned to you? And the way the employers are looking at it is beyond degrees. They are looking at what are the skills that the students are bringing in, and that they are looking in the form of a certification or a badge or any courses that the students are doing beyond the curriculum that they are going through. And because of these changes, what we are also looking and seeing massively happening across the higher education space, and I think that's the right approach that most of the higher education institutes are taking, are looking at the blended approach, which is looking at the curriculum, but also involving some of the elements which are important from the external factor. And as Coursera, since we work with both the learners as well as the organizations which employ these learners, which employ these students, we are able to bring in many of those learnings and aspects as part of the program, what we call as Coursera of Campus. So as part of Coursera of Campus, these students not only get access to the top quality content, which is created by our 200 plus partners, which include the top universities as well as industry partners, but we bring in some of the other elements as well, which are very important in bringing a digital learning experience for students, as well as making it very easy for the faculty members. So what we bring as part of the Coursera of Campus is obviously the content which comes from the top sources, the high ranked universities, as well as industry partners, but we also bring in some of the other elements. I want to focus more on the second, third, and fourth, which is very important for both students as well as the universities. The first is the private authoring. And last year we saw the kind of stress that the faculty members went through because they had to completely switch on from in-class sessions to online learning, which is not an easy thing to do if you're not prepared for it. So what we are offering now as part of the Coursera of a campus is for the faculty members to create their own private courses. So now on the Coursera platform, we can make the tools and the platform available to the faculty members to create their own courses, which could be private and can be accessed by the university students. The second and the third and the fourth piece is around what the industry is looking for. As I had said earlier, the industry is looking for the skills first approach. And it's important that the students not only complete the course, but exhibit the skills that they have mastered. And to master a skill, it is not just enough to take a course, but to do the assessments, but also practice what you have learned. I can't become a swimmer just by looking at some videos. I need to practice what I have learned. Similarly, if I am doing a course related to, say, a Python or a MailChimp or a Tableau as a software, unless I work on the actual software, I can't master those skills. And these are made available as form of the guided projects and hands-on learning on Coursera. So student can actually practice on the real software and the tool that she is learning. And the other piece is around job ready skills. As I said earlier, since we work with the partners, which are industry partners, as well as we work directly with the companies which are upskilling and reskilling their employees using Coursera platform, we are able to bring in those elements to the campuses as part of our program. So today there are many universities and campuses which are using Coursera for Campus, and the way they are using are in different ways, or some of the ways which is a combination of all these. So if you look at the central piece, which are the blue pillars, they are the core programs that the universities are offering. And universities are using some of the courses from Coursera to blend in their core curriculum. But more importantly are the other building blocks, which are the emerging skills, multidisciplinary skills, and the career skills, which are equally important for the students today. And the foundation of all that is upskilling the faculty. And this is a very important subject, because I think when we talk about skilling, we only focus on the students, but I think the faculty members have done a tremendous job in the last 1 year on supporting the student work. And that's also something that the universities are leveraging today as part of the Coursera for Campus platform. I'll just quickly go through some of those building blocks. So beyond the core courses that the students can take on Coursera today, what they are also leveraging the platform is to build some of those emerging skills. Now, I had shown in one of the earlier slides that the top 5-6 jobs in demand are related to machine learning, data science, AI, cloud, etc. And today on our platform, the partners that we have, such as IBM, Google, SAS, etc., are creating professional certificates on these topics. So these are like industry approved. So if IBM or Google are creating their own certificates and the students are able to pass those certificates, it's a great way of showing to the industry that we come out with the skills which is approved by the industry. Beyond that, if you look at the career skills, unfortunately, even when I was graduating, these were some of the skills which were never taught to me. I am an engineering graduate, but when I was graduating, these were not the subjects that I was exposed to. But these are very, very important for the students today, right? Doesn't matter if I become a finance professional or marketing professional or a project manager, these are the combination of leadership, management skills, or human skills, which are very, very important which the industry is looking for. So, for example, even if I'm an engineering student, it's important for me to have exposure to leading teams or foundations of leadership. And these are some of the skills that the students can develop using the platform today. The other thing which I talked about earlier is the faculty members, and faculty members have gone through a lot last year. And when we were looking at some of the top enrollments done by faculty members on our platform, obviously some of those were related to top skills which are relevant today, such as AI and programming, but there were other things as well. If you look at the second course, which is the science of well-being, there was so much of stress and anxiety that was created because of COVID and working from home and teaching online, that the faculty members went beyond the subjects that they were teaching and started looking for courses such as these. And these are also some of the courses that we can make available for the faculty members. The other important piece today is also to handhold faculty members to move them to the digital or the blended format. And as I said earlier, one of the things that we do today is allow private authoring on our platform. But beyond that, I think creating an online course is very, very different than teaching or teaching in class. So the faculty members are experts in their subjects. They've been teaching in class for many, many years. But how do we help them move to an online world to teach online or create courses online? And for that as well, we have both courses and short projects today on the platform. So the courses such as what is a MOOC, what is a massive online course, or how do you create a virtual instruction? So these are the basic level of courses which are made available for the faculty members, and also for them to practice like the students need to practice. Obviously, if the faculty members are moving to the online world, there are many, many short projects, hands-on labs, and projects which are created for the faculty members. So for example, very, very simple things such as creating a student profile using Google Docs. So the faculty members can just take a short guided project and create student profile using Google Docs, or they can create their own short guided project. So the core subjects, career related subjects, as well as some of the skills which the industry is looking for, is the way most of the universities that we work with combine the entire curriculum. And this is just an example, varies from university to university, but broadly what universities are looking at is teaching 60 to 80% through their own faculty members. And this could be a combination of the content that they are already using, but they can also leverage some of the courses which are part of the Coursera platform, which are core courses. So some of the things like data structures and algorithm from University of California, just an example. So while the professor or the teacher would teach data structures using their own syllabus or content right now, but they can also use the Coursera courses. But more importantly is making sure that the students come with the skills what the industry is looking for to make them job ready. And this is what like 20 to 40% of the courses are used from the Coursera platform. For the courses which may not be part of the curriculum or for which the university may not have a faculty member is something that the universities are leveraging today. So beyond the courses which are part of, say, BTech in computer science, the universities are adding some of the courses from emerging skills and the courses and certificates from IBM, Google, etc., to create a curriculum which is very, very comprehensive, helps the students to build the skills which is needed by the industry. But also, as I said, foundation is to also help the faculty members to move from the traditional teaching to online learning. I could go on and on because we speak with so many universities, there's so many learnings that we can bring, but I'm also respectful and conscious of the time as well. So I'll stop my presentation here, but happy to engage in a conversation with our esteemed panel.
Thanks, Clavia. That was a very useful introduction. I think your core points about the gap between what students are learning and what industries are looking for, as well as the importance of remembering that we can't really upskill students without upskilling faculty. I would really like to use that as the basis for our conversation today. And I think to begin by asking why it's so important that we upskill both faculty and students, and also to identify the challenges in doing so. So I'm interested to hear what all of your experiences at your own institutions have been, if anyone's found something particularly effective or particularly difficult in achieving that. Johnny, I don't know if you wanted to step in and let us know what your experience has been.
First of all, thank you. Thank you for that very stimulating presentation. Well, in the Philippines, just like in any other, I guess all over the world, there was this whole global teaching experiment. So we really we were forced to go. We had to upskill our teachers. Thankfully, we were able to offer a systematic training program online for our teachers. So even if we were trying to figure things out as we were going along, we had some rhyme and reason, I think, in the way we were able to do things. And the faculty were very anxious, but they were also, as in many other places in the Philippines and the world, they really stretched themselves, I think, and that was quite inspiring. So yeah, upskilling faculty was a big thing this year. And of course, students also had to adjust to a different environment, which takes a different set of disposition as well and skills. So yeah.
Thank you. I was so keen to hear about your experience. I forgot to mention, if everyone could just introduce themselves and their institution and their role before they speak, that would also be very useful for when we return to see what we've covered today. Johnny, I don't know if you wanted to do that.
Sure. Yeah. So I just got a new job. I'm the dean of the new School of Education and Learning Design of the Ateneo de Manila University in Manila. So.
Thank you. Maria, perhaps you wanted to let us know a little bit about what you found challenging about the task of upskilling faculty and students.
I'm Cynthia Bautista. Maria is a name for almost everyone. I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs of the University of the Philippines system. So we're a system of 8 universities patterned after the University of California system. We were really challenged because of the sheer number of students and the sheer number of faculty, but it's a continuous upskilling now. We actually are better off now than we were last year. Last year we were really crazy, and there was a lot of resistance. But in the sense, COVID actually facilitated or catalyzed the changes that we said we were already starting to do, with a lot of faculty resistance, but COVID actually dissipated the resistance because everyone is forced to do it. And I think moving towards now, we're in a transition to a new normal, which will eventually be definitely blended. Also also considering courses in Coursera that actually can be the equivalent of some of our courses. So we are now in this particular strategy. We're now in this strategy also in terms of micro-credentialing and stacking some qualifications and modularizing our courses, but it's a very challenging thing. So the faculty, definitely, we have 3,500 faculty members of uneven skills. Most of them are academics, so it is really transitioning towards even the shift to blended learning was to online. We're not even saying online, it's remote learning, because we have a lot of students who don't have access. So we really had to have particular programs for them, but very challenging, but we're moving towards the next normal. COVID helped break ways of thinking. And I guess Father Johnny was talking about upskilling of faculty. So our faculty is a little bit more open now to what they don't know, or ways of doing that they were not used to before.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about the ways, as you mentioned, that people's minds are more open to different ways of doing things now. I wonder also if being essential that we move remote in this last year has changed the technologies and platforms that are available to us. I don't know if anyone's found that the systems that they can use are so much better to mean that a blended approach is more viable going forwards. Joan, did you want to jump in on that?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Joanne Largo. I'm part of the Office of the Vice President for Academic Affairs of University of San Carlos in Cebu City. So first of all, our concern right now, because last year when everything was abruptly transported from the physical to the virtual, our teachers had to cope with that emergency situation. And so the mindset had been to really literally transfer everything from the physical to the virtual. And we have seen a lot of problems with that one. You cannot have a virtual classroom with a face-to-face mindset. So the main concern right now is student engagement in a virtual platform, how to manage the content of what we put in the virtual classroom. And in connection with what you have mentioned, it really is still very much a challenge, the technology in the Philippines right now. So addressing the concern of student accessibility, which pertains not only to their internet connection or internet connectivity, but also in the way technology is being used to address various learner conditions. So for example, we have to fashion our learning materials so as to be sensitive to those who, for instance, are visually impaired. We haven't taken that yet into consideration. So technology, in fact, has not improved. Ironically for us, we still face the same challenges we faced exactly a year ago in terms of student in connectivity.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
Ronaldo,
Can
hi, how are you? Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Did you want to speak on any of those points, on the challenges that you faced, or perhaps the ways that you've managed those challenges?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I have unstable internet right now. But well, I'm Ray Vea of Mapua University, and I think just like most other schools in the Philippines, we had to quickly shift from face-to-face to online last year. And in some instances, we're just a few lessons ahead of the students in converting, physical material to online, at least in one of our or two of our subsidiaries. But we were much ahead in the main campus. But we realized that, we cannot just do that, just transform the face-to-face lesson plan into online format. So we sent a good number of our faculty members. We paid for them to enroll in MOOCs on instructional design, so that they can experience how it is, from the student point of view, taking up an online course, and at the same time learn the principles of instructional design. And we have now started what in the Philippines we call an echo of those learnings by a good number of our faculty members, so that our object is for all faculty members to have about the same appreciation and knowledge of instructional design. See, we're mostly engineers in our school, and it's just linear thinking. Get some people trained, and then have those people train the other people, and so in the process now of making our asynchronous material, we actually in some cases have the subject matter experts work with some faculty members who are quite adept already in instructional design to come up with the course modules. We have them on contracts, some of them being subject matter experts and some instructional design. Some cases, those two attributes could be found in a single faculty member. She's just as well. So that's how we're trying to cope right now. And I think like most others, we feel that the online mode of delivery will have to be resorted to for some more time in the Philippines. And that's what we have to do. We got our work cut out for us.
Yes, I'm sure.
Thank you.
It's interesting to hear that your own faculty did a course on MOOCs via online platforms. Did you find that they were more open to moving their own teaching onto online platforms, having experienced that for themselves?
It was a bit choppy. I'm sorry, I could not
Sorry.
understand very well.
You said that your
Sorry.
Not a problem. Your faculty had taken their own courses online on MOOCs, and I wondered if, having experienced an online course, they felt more able to deliver one themselves.
Breaking up.
No problem. I can type that question out to you, but if anyone else has got something to say on that, has anyone else delivered an online course to their own faculty and then had their faculty move on to teach their students in that way? Franco, perhaps you could.
Yeah, maybe I could. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Franco Teves. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs of Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology. It's one of the campuses of the Mindanao State University system. Yeah, I can probably I share the experiences of the other universities in the Philippines regarding how we started with more intensely with online teaching. We had the e-learning center before. We started in 2002, and only a few faculty members actually were interested. But it was last year's pandemic that really propelled, it's so abrupt, and there is this move also from the Commission on Higher Education that we moved to online or flexible learning, as what Commission on Higher Education calls it. So we had to really make sure that our faculty members are trained. We had what you might call as crash courses in online teaching. And at the beginning, it was chaos, actually, because only a few faculty members are capable at the beginning. But we went through the process very step by step, and until such time that now we are trying to sustain what we have achieved. And almost all our courses are being taught online right now, except for a few, maybe 20% are still, and we're trying to move from the traditional to online. And very challenging, of course, for us is how to transition our syllabi from the traditional to online. And it also changed a lot of things, like, for example, choosing the content of what we teach, because it would be very difficult, of course, to make use of the time. Like, for example, if you have a 3-hour course in the traditional way of teaching, but when it's online, probably we have to meet only for 1 hour instead of 3 hours. And of course, plus the traffic, there's so many users, and the bandwidth is quite limited. So that's another thing, the ICT infrastructure problem that we had to contend with. And there's also the problem on making sure that we do not sacrifice the quality of our courses when we transition this to the online platform. And so we created a committee We call it the Innovative and Flexible Learning Committee. And within that committee, we also had our quality assurance teams. And we divide the work according to the college or department, and checking on it's some sort of a one-on-one working with the faculty members, making sure that everyone is moving forward and keeping up with the objectives of the university to make it a sustainable one. And that's what's happening in our university right now.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You mentioned that you felt a need to transform your syllabus in order to move learning online. But Eclavia also mentioned that the demand for skills is changing both in students and employers. So I'm interested to find out, well, first from Coursera, what insight you have into the most in-demand skills. You gave us a bit of that in your introduction. And then also from the faculty members, the university leaders who we have here, have you identified that skills shift, and are you delivering those sorts of skills? Eclavia, maybe you can just speak to us for a second.
Yeah, sure, Ashton. And I think very relevant points made by Dr. Ronaldo as well as Dr. Teves on making sure that while we are imparting the skills which are needed, but not compromising the quality, right? Because what students absorb is what they are learning. And to answer your specific questions around the skills that we are seeing, as we know that digital skills, I mean, any report that you pick up, as well as when we directly talk to the employers, they talk about the skills which are needed, which are digital skills. But when we think of digital skills, we think of an engineer who's doing a computer science course, but it is not limited to that. Any field that you are in, whether I want to become a supply chain expert, I want to become a marketing manager, I want to become a finance manager, for each of those domains, obviously there's a lot of digital skills which are needed, which I think many students today ignore, or they don't have an option of learning. Because if I'm a finance student, I would just learn about finance, accounting, and other stuff, but I'll not have either the opportunity or the syllabus does not allow me to learn something which is a digital skills. So that is one. Second, what we are also seeing a shift is in blending of human skills and the core skills. And again, there are many reports, and as per World Economic Forum, by 2025, the most important skills would be a blending of the core technical skills as well as human skills. So resilience, communication, collaboration, leadership, well-being, these are some of the skills which are equally important. And I think that's also a shift that we saw. So there was an interesting report that we looked at internally when we were looking at the number of enrollments in 2019 on our platform. 8 out of 10 skills were technical skills. So AI, Python, machine learning, and other technical skills. Only 2 were non-technical. But with COVID in 2020, when we looked at the report again, it was absolutely the other way. So 8 out of 10 skills were non-technical skills, because people have realized that the human skills, leadership skills, collaboration related skills are equally important. And that's why I think it'll be a combination of technical skills, digital skills, as well as human skills is what is needed both for the students as well as what the industry is looking for.
Thank you. Roberto, have you noticed an increase in interest from students to those human skills that Eclavia mentioned, as opposed to the more technical side of things?
Yes, certainly. We're a Catholic university, a Jesuit university, and we've focused really a lot on what's being referred to as human skills, with our core curriculum being a liberal arts, humanistic type of, and that's very part of the core curriculum that was talked about. And so maybe that's why we sort of, you were talking earlier about being blended. We certainly look forward to returning back. We know that it's not soon in the Philippines that we will be able to go back to face-to-face and in-person classes. But what we know, I think, and what we are expecting is that the future when we come back is that it'll be blended of some form. It will not go back to what was just previously pre-COVID, pre-pandemic. We certainly miss, and I think that the important value of the community of learners, the social interaction that's possible very much in in-person classes and interaction with students and teachers in a very personal way, and students with students. And we feel that a lot of that is very important, especially in these formation of human skills, actually, the forming of character and values, mindsets, attitudes. So we see that, but we also see the value of this technology, this online learning that's made it possible. And we hope that we will take what seems to be valuable of those things, like uh, independent learning. It's certainly very important in this remote online learning. You become very student-centered. They're not passive recipients of instruction. They really have to take the initiative and manage their time, manage their learning process by themselves. And we feel that that's very important, and we should somehow be able to keep that even in this next normal that's going to happen. The access to materials, this wide access now that's available because of the online technology, the mixture of synchronous, asynchronous could be also be very important. So certainly we see that the future is very much is very much blended, and that we hope to mix the two together while we see values in both systems. What we're I think also grappling with is, I think online is really good, and it's really possible to do knowledge transmission. We can really transmit the knowledge. But again, if we see education in a wider sense of being whole person education, we're not sure if it's enough just to be online. So those challenges also. Thank you.
Thank you. Johnny, what are your feelings on how well online education can create that sort of well-rounded graduate? Do you think that we need a blended approach to achieve that?
Well, I think what I want to say is that one of the things that sort of, I think, was an advantage in the experience of leveling up to doing online learning and teaching, it's not just learning the technical skills. No? As Ray mentioned, it's really about learning design. And I think that shift, that mind shift, was so important and very difficult to achieve, actually. Most of our faculty are quite attached to content, and for them to think in terms of what we call competence and to design the learning experience of the students accordingly, that's still something that we're navigating right now. No? But one of the advantages of the experience last year is that more and more people, more and more of our faculty are beginning to think in terms of design. No? And as a result, they're able to focus and prioritize content. So I think those learnings should be brought forward. We should not let that go. No? So even as we're trying to prepare ourselves for the new normal, whatever that might look like, I think we want to go blended, not only because it's going to be necessary because of social distancing and all that, but it's going to allow us to take advantage of what we've learned to do. No? For when we shifted to online learning and teaching. Now, when it comes to whole person education, certainly it's not the same as face-to-face. No, there's a lot of formation, education that can happen offline, as it were. No, but we can try to stretch the boundaries, I think, of online learning if face-to-face is not yet available, and that's what we've tried to do, actually. Being a Catholic university, the formation of the person is very important. So aside from the academic, we also had all these other programs going on about leadership formation and collaboration, but they have to be scaffolded and designed in such a way that it will work in the online environment. And that was the challenge for us. And it continues to be the challenge.
Thank you. A point that's been raised a number of times that I think is particularly necessary to speak about when we're talking about online learning is access. I think Roberta and also Joan both mentioned this as something that can potentially be difficult if students don't have access to all of the technology and hardware and software that they need. Then online learning becomes near to impossible. So how do we address those issues, and how do we make sure that no one's left behind as we move towards a more blended approach? Joan, did you want to speak about that?
It's very much intertwined with the issue also of student engagement and the content slash competencies and learning outcomes that we wanted to develop, so that when we create and prepare our respective modules and learning lessons, learning pills, so to speak, we will take into consideration not just the internet connectivity or the access of our students to internet connection, because most of our students do have access, but it's very much intermittent and it's also very weak. So in the design of the learning activities and even in the assessments that we would put in, we really have to take that into consideration. And honestly speaking, our faculty still needed a lot of retooling, not just on student engagement and interaction, not just also on micro learning, but more on the aspect also of student accessibility.
Thank you. And Cynthia, have you found a similar experience?
The bigger problem of the Philippines is internet infrastructure is not adequate, okay, across. I mean, even for those of us who are in the city, we also sometimes are lost or disconnected, even in a forum like this. But having said that, I think that's why it's remote learning. Is we had to produce whatever we put on the LMS asynchronously. It's there, but we had to reproduce them so that they're brought to the places where the students are. So that's in terms of access, but that doesn't help very much if we're talking about blended learning in the future. And using technology even to enhance skills. I mean, to develop skills in students. Yeah, I think as we move towards blended learning, we're also putting pressure on our government to improve the infrastructure of our internet. We actually are getting we have a franchise. It's being revived because we may not be able to reach people through the internet. We reach them through digital TV. So that is being piloted now for places that are not really accessible, as easily accessible. But I think I agree with everyone that this is really an opportunity to shift. This is the time we're shifting to a more competence-based education that's all just abstract. And our faculty, even up to now, are still very content-based. I think I agree with Johnny there that they're very content-based. They think content is learning. So our students were so overwhelmed because they thought going to online is packing. You pack as much as possible because they're all online. I think we're grateful that we have a UP Open University, which was already doing all this. So they helped, but that's still a challenge. But where we are really moving, student agency is the thing. So even our own structures, units, semester, how we organize ourselves, that one we're also having to rethink. Because also courses, especially our GE courses, how you can make them modularized so that students can go with their pace and determine what they do in a lifelong learning framework, but that is easier said than done. So even our honors, who would get honors in the future, even that, I mean, we might have to shift because of the system now to a different system where you don't usually get it the way you used to get it. But yes, we have access problems. That's a problem in the Philippines for many students who are not able to access, not necessarily because they're poor, but because the signals wherever they are weak. So that's the constraint.
Thank you. I suppose something to keep in mind is that using technology more for learning doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're always online, and perhaps platforms as they develop and emerge can incorporate offline functionality to optimize blended learning. Eclavia, is that something that you think is going to become more important? Is that something that you can provide for at the moment?
Yeah, so I think very, very relevant points made around access as well, because especially in Asia and some of the countries in Asia, this is a problem. But I think how we look at the universities using it is three aspects, right? So one of the things that was mentioned was the IT infrastructure, because if you are hosting the content internally, creating your own content, you need to completely overhaul the IT infrastructure. While if you're moving to an online platform such as Coursera, obviously the students need to just go to their browser and start learning. So the IT infrastructure need not be overhauled to a big extent. Second is, as you said, Ashton, is it's not learning like a 3-hour course right now. If I don't have a signal right now, I can learn whenever the signal is strong, and learning in chunks, right? So the entire course may be 10, 12 hours, but it is divided into short videos. So whenever possible, the students can learn using those short videos, reading assignments, etc. The third is when we looked at the platform last year, when suddenly all of the students had to move online on Coursera, we saw that almost 70% of the students were learning using their mobile. So it is not just coming to the desktop and having a high-speed internet, but even on mobile. And that was very, very heartening to see, because I think the students were keen to learn, but they were also able to learn just using the mobile platform, because we also have a mobile platform. So I think these are some of the aspects which are there, so that you don't need a massive IT infrastructure, because it's anytime, anywhere learning. So I think this also gives flexibility to both the students as well as faculty members.
Thank you. Another important aspect of learning at university that has been disrupted by COVID is partnerships with industry, and that hands-on learning that Eclavia mentioned in his introduction. So what kind of partnerships can and should universities be undertaking, and how important are these to helping students transition effectively into the workplace? Franco, perhaps you can speak about that.
Well, our engagement with the industry right now is more on research, in the area of research. So not much on instruction, but research. And we still continue to engage, even under quarantine conditions. And however, the pace has a little bit slowed down. But we have continued our engagements with the industry. I hope that we could also have some engagement in terms of transforming some of our our programs to to a form that is very close to what Eclavia has mentioned. Not the traditional courses, but having a mixture of something that would enable our graduates to be more when they finish, when they're out there in the real world, that they are more employable, and then they can be more functional, more efficient in society. We still do not have those kind of programs.
Thank you. And Ronaldo, is your institution also considering partnerships with industry? Is that something that's important to you?
Yeah, it is important to us. We have, we have adopted an outcomes-based system of education. What that means is the intended or desired outcomes of our programs are would be the knowledge, the skills that our graduates will have at the time of graduation. It is what they're able to do, think, and be at the time of graduation. And all these outcomes are keyed to the needs of industry, since these are mostly professional programs. To operationalize that, we have program academic advisory panels composed of people from industry, not necessarily our own alumni, who would advise us on how we can continuously improve our curricula so that we're attuned to their needs. And And well, we have OJT programs, and any other school would have that, I believe. But what we're thinking of right now is the possibility of linking with industry by offering short courses online. And for that, we are thinking also of the possibility of using micro-credential courses to be integrated in such programs. I think there would be a good demand for something like that, especially these newfangled programs in business, technology, and data science that are offered, for example, by Coursera. There should be a good demand for that, I would think.
Thank you. Has anyone else
And
been
we're thinking along the range of the offerings of the school.
Sorry, I think
Yes.
my audio just caught up to you there. Thank you. I wonder if anyone else has been considering micro-credentials and stackable learning moving forward, and the way that this could contribute to more employable graduates, but also to a more lifelong learning model. Johnny, I see your hands raised there. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we've been having conversations about that, but as you can imagine, it's still a long way to go because of the traditional way of thinking, the traditional structures we have in place, which tend to be a bit more stubborn. So, but conversations have begun. We're trying to figure out some pilot projects. So I'm really interested in learning from others about what they've done in that area. But certainly that's a direction we want to take.
Thank you. Cynthia, have you had an experience with the micro-credentialing?
We're moving into micro-credentials, but integrating them into our traditional stacking and integrating that's a challenge. But more of moving in that direction.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds like it's in the early stages, I think, probably for a lot of institutions, but seems to be something that learners are demanding more of. Joan, did you want to speak about that?
Yeah, we've actually tried it and found it very effective in us being able to perform also our role to the of contributing something to the community. So we've been engaging with local government units, micro-credentialing their key people insofar as financial management during the pandemic is concerned, and we find it very cost-effective, very effective as well in disseminating the idea. So it's really worth pursuing. One of the good things that COVID-19 has opened up for us.
Thank you. From an industry perspective at Clavia, why do you think universities seem to be having so much success with something like micro-credentials? Joan mentioned that it's even been more cost-effective for them.
Yeah, and I would relate back to what Dr. Ronaldo said, is the outcome-based learning. Earlier, the outcome was a degree. Now the outcome is the skill that the student masters. So I think completely agree with what Dr. Ronaldo said. And I think this is also what the industry is looking for. Because if you look at on the platform today, we have a loop back mechanism, because there's learners on one side, there are the industry partners who create the content, and then there are the industries which are already using. So it's a great way for us to look at what the students want to learn. The student wants to learn something which will help her get the job, because that's what the industry is focusing on. And similarly, going back to the content providers on our side. So if IBM or a Google or AWS is creating content, which is a great signal for the student as well, because they themselves are big employers. So I think it's going back to the same point, that it is more about showing something that you have learned, and not just a degree or a certificate, but also the assessments and the guided projects. And it brings back to one of the earlier questions that you asked, Ashton, on the IT infrastructure. So now if the students are not able to go to their campuses, they don't have the computer labs to work on, how do they build skills? And these are some of the both industry created content as well as the virtual labs that they can use to build those skills. So I think collaboration with the industry has always been a major part of the university interaction, but I think one step ahead beyond that is to help the students develop the skill what industry is looking for.
Thank you. Roberto, have you also been looking into micro-credentials and the way that they position students to enter industry with more confidence? Sorry, I think we've just got you on mute there. Sorry, Roberto, I think we've just got you on mute.
I come from the same university as Johnny, so similarly. But I think conversations, usually just discussing so far, possibilities of stacking within the curriculum itself, within the context design. There's also some talk about maybe we can offer for the continuing education, for the lifelong learning, postgraduate, or they finish university and our alumni come back and they want to gain some more skills. So that's another possibility that's being offered. With what Coursera presented as I was listening, I think that will really start to happen if there is a demand side to it. If employers really start employing people just based on in companies in the Philippines, I mean, just start employing because they're just looking for the credentials and not for the degrees. At this point, I don't see companies doing that yet. Maybe in the future they will do that. But I think that would be another driving force. If that happens, then I think that shift to micro-credentialing will happen faster. If employers, prospective employers, start to think that way and say, we're going to employ you because you have these certificates in these data analytics skills in AI and whatever. But at this point, it's very hard. I think people are still looking for degrees to get to. So as I'm saying, it's the pull of the demand side, which will determine how fast that can be implemented.
Thank
there's
you.
also, I guess, there's also some demonstration effect because we have some students who dropped out and they were hired by Google because they got the Google certification at different levels. So some students get to hear of it. I think that's also part of possible source of demand on the side of students.
Yes, and I suppose as course providers, really, you are ultimately guided by what the students want. The students are guided by what the employers want. So it will be really interesting to see moving forwards how quickly those changes happen and the ways that they happen and how technology and platforms can adapt to help you provide those skills. I see that we are starting to come up to time here. So I did just want to thank everyone for making the time to speak with us today and for raising some really interesting points about upskilling. Obviously, we've moved into micro-credentialing and access for students from different backgrounds as well. So I think we've covered a huge amount of stuff here. This session will be available on demand after we finish up, and there'll be a lot of post-event content as well. So I would urge you all to keep in contact and let us know if anything big happens at your institutions, and we're always interested to speak to you about that. But for now, I think I'll let everyone get on with their days, and thank you again for joining us today.